Ladies and gentlemen, if you please take your seats. About to begin the program. Please take your seats.
Pilots, please come to order and take your seat. I hope you enjoyed your lunch break. I hope that you enjoyed spending some time and spending some money with the co-pilots. I hope that you enjoyed going to the marketplace. In addition to our fabulous vendors that came to us, we had some extra swag items that will travel easily and very moderately priced for you to take back to pilots that could not be here, or could be used in fall council for maybe raffle items for your district or district convention. I hope you enjoyed visiting with the co-pilots and spending money on Calcutta tickets. And I know I said that twice. I was intentionally doing that because that tumbler is filling up with tickets, and that money comes back to us and also goes to deserving students. But those of you that had district lunches today, my sandwich was delicious. Very large servings, and I hope you have something, those of you for tomorrow have something to look forward to as well. Okay, we're going to resume our business session. Therefore, delegates will need to be seated in the delegates section. Again, if your name badge has a red background, you need to be at one of the tables up front. If you do not have a red background in your seat up front, you'll need to move to the back. Joining us on the dais to my left is Cindy Weaver, 2005-2006 PI President and Chair of the Election Committee. And Cindy and I were governors back in the mid-1990s together. So please welcome Cindy to the dais. Pat, has there been a change in the number of delegates registered? Okay, would you please come and give that report, please?
Thank you. Madam President, the updated registration report for our convention: Pilot Club delegates 173, International Administrative Council delegates 27, past international presidents not serving as club delegates 16, for a total of 216. Non-voting attendees, other pilots 243, co-pilots 24, anchors 74, compass 5, navigators 9, non-pilot visitors 0, for a total non-voting attendees 355, total registered 571, number of countries represented 2.
Okay, thank you, Pat. You have heard the report of the registration committee. The chair will repeat the report in its entirety. Our voting strength: club delegates 173, International Administrative Council delegates 27, past international presidents not serving as club delegates 16, total voting strength 215. Non-voting attendees, other pilots 243, co-pilots 24, anchors 74, compass 5, navigators 9, non-pilot visitors 0, total non-voting attendees 355, total registered 571, countries represented 2. You have heard the report of the registration committee. What is your pleasure? Your mic's not on there.
I just have a question. I just want to know, would you restate the total voting strength?
Sure.
please?
Okay, pilot club delegates 173, International Administrative Council delegates 27, past international president delegates not serving as club president 16, total voting strength 216. Thank you, Deb.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, Debbie Hayes, Governor, Michigan, Indiana District, I move that we accept the report of the registration committee as presented.
Thank you, Deb.
Madam President, I second that motion. Oh, sorry. Linda Byer, Heartland District Governor.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the report of the registration committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion is adopted and the report of the registration committee is accepted. Will all delegates please stand? Laura. Okay. Our parliamentarian has verified that a quorum is present. You may be seated. We will now consider the proposed changes to the bylaws that were sent out to each delegate 30 days prior to this meeting. Secretary Lisa Patterson will read only the proposed change to the bylaws. The present reading and rationale are printed in the program starting on page 38 and continuing on page 39. Lisa?
Article 8, Dues and Fees, Section 1, International. Number B, Fees. Under B, it's 1, Insurance. All members residing in the United States shall pay an annual insurance fee. 2, Reinstatement. Reinstated members shall pay a reinstatement fee. Please note that the effective date of this bylaw change, if approved, would be July 1st, 2022.
Thank you, Lisa. What is your pleasure regarding Article 8, Section 1B?
Madam President, John D. Irwin, Governor, Florida District. I move the adoption of the amendment to Article 8, Section 1B.
Madam President, B.J. Wade, Governor, Clubs of Evolving District. I second the motion.
Thank you. Is there any discussion?
Madam President, Pat Gwynn, Governor, Kentucky, Ohio, West Virginia District. I move to amend the amendment by striking B2 from the proposed reading.
Madam President, Dorothy Tyson, Governor, North Carolina District. I second the motion.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded to strike number 2 from the original motion. Is there any discussion? Okay, now we are going to vote on the amendment to the amendment. And I'm going to restate, to remove item 2, reinstatement, from Article 8, Section 1B. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, the motion passed. Now we will vote on the original motion as amended. You need to restate it. You need to restate it. Okay. So you're voting on to amend the bylaws of Article 8, Section 1B regarding fees. And that would, the article would read, insurance. All members residing in the United States shall pay an annual insurance fee. Okay, all those, is there any discussion?
Madam President, Mary Ann Frazier, Midwest District. I speak in opposition to this amendment only because if at some point in the future it will be difficult to add a fee back in. Right now the fees are set by the budget. Yes, this says shall pay, but when you go to the budget, the number is 0, and there should be a line item in the budget, and I think it's been dropped over time. But they shall pay 0. Down the road, if for some financial reason we feel that we should not reinstate, we should put back in either a new member or a reinstatement fee or whatever, then it just gets added to the budget and approved when the budget is approved, or discussed when the budget is approved. But by taking this out, we lose that flexibility. 11 years ago, when the bylaws were reviewed, that was the consideration that was made to leave it in. So I speak in opposition of this.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Any further discussion?
Madam President, Betty Duval King, past president from the Mississippi District. I speak for the amendment. It has been my happy privilege to organize several clubs. And in the last couple of years, we have found that the people we're trying to reach are not making as much money as they did before, and it's a hardship for them to pay the dues, plus insurance, plus that extra $25. Now, our club in New Albany has paid for the last 2 because we've organized them. But we have to consider our budget too. But I'd like to see us to strike that. I'll be the first to stand up 10 years from now, if I'm living, and speak on this to return it. But right now, I think we will get more members if we don't have to pay that extra $25. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Other discussion? If not, you will be voting on the amended motion to remove the reinstatement fee from the published motion publish proposed bylaw in your program. So the amended bylaw, if passed, would be Article 8, 1B, fees and insurance. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. Okay, the motion carried and the bylaw has been amended. Okay, Lisa, would you come and read the proposed change to the second proposed bylaw amendment?
Article 33, Compass Organization. A Compass Club is a community-based organization for young adults up to the age of 26, Japan District, age of 28, who have graduated from high school. This will provide opportunities to participate in community service, projects, develop leadership skills, and advance personal and professional goals. Compass Clubs will be governed by the bylaws of Pilot International. Compass Clubs may be established by Pilot International in accordance with policies established by the Executive Committee of Pilot International and the bylaws governing these organizations.
Thank you, Lisa. What is your pleasure regarding Article 33?
Madam President, Michelle Davis, Michigan, Indiana District, Pilot Club of Muncie. I move that we accept the motion as presented.
Thank you, Michelle.
Madam President, Jennifer Heister-Hugh, Southwestern District. I second the motion.
Thank you, Jennifer. Is there any discussion?
Madam President, Direct Mormon, Governor, Georgia District. I move to amend the proposed bylaw amendment by striking the first sentence and replacing it with, Compass Club is a community-based organization for high school graduates or young adults up to the age of 26, with Japan District being the age of 28.
Madam President, Jennifer Heister-Hugh, Southwestern District. I second the amended motion.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Okay, is there any discussion?
Madam President, Direct Mormon, Georgia District Governor, speaking for the amendment, this is an example of how one little word can make a difference in all that we do. By moving high school graduates up in the sentence and adding the word or, we are making it possible for the amendment to cover a number of situations. A person who gets a GED would still be allowed to go. A person who's going to college without any high school diploma would be allowed to go. And this would let us cover the young adults all the way through age 26 that would like to be in a community-based or college-based Compass Club.
Okay. Thank you, Dorette. Any other discussion? Okay. You'll be voting on the amendment to the proposed bylaw amendment, which states a Compass Club is a community-based organization for high school graduates or young adults up to the age of 26, Japan District age 28, who have graduated from high school. Yeah, so that's all you're voting on now is the amendment to the proposed bylaw amendment.
Madam President?
Yes.
Can you repeat that? Because you had graduated from high school twice in that sentence.
Okay, I'm sorry, Linda, I didn't hear what you said.
Linda Byer, Heartland District Governor. Can you repeat that? Because you had graduated from high school in the beginning and then you had it at the end again. So you read it twice in there.
That's the way she
This is what you're reading. They're striking the first sentence and replacing it with this. Okay? So they're moving to strike the first sentence and replace it. Just read what's there.
Right here, okay. Okay, the proposed amendment is to, the motion was to move to amend the proposed bylaw amendment by striking the first sentence and replacing with, Compass Club is a community-based organization for high school graduates or young adults up to the age of 26, Japan District age of 28. Does that clarify for you? And I apologize. Okay, is there any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Okay, the motion carried. Okay, now we will vote on the proposed bylaw amendment as amended for Article 33, Compass Organization. Is there any discussion? Okay, you'll be voting, and the proposed amendment is, the first sentence is Compass Club is a community-based organization for high school graduates or young adults up to the age of 26, Japan District age 28. All those in favor, aye. Opposed, no. Okay, the motion carried. Thank you. We will now consider the proposed 2022-2023 Pilot International budget. The budget was distributed to each delegate 30 days prior to the meeting. Treasurer Nikki Dawkins will present the budget. Nikki?
The 2022-2023 proposed budget and narrative are printed on pages 42 to 46 of the convention program. They have also been posted on the website for 30 days and reviewed in the budget forum on Wednesday. The budget reflects anticipated revenue of $1,183,581 and anticipated expenses of the same amount in a balanced budget. According to our bylaws, the Budget Committee consists of the Pilot International Treasurer, who serves as the chair, the President, President-elect, and Vice President. We have worked conscientiously to prepare the 2022-2023 proposed budget. Madam President, on behalf of the Budget Committee, I move the adoption of the 2022-2023 budget.
Thank you, Nikki. The question is on the adoption of the 22-23 budget. Is there any discussion? The question is on the adoption of the 22-23 Pilot International budget. Those in favor, please stand. Thank you. You may be seated. Those opposed, please stand. The motion is carried. The budget is adopted, and you have approved the budget for the 22-23 Pilot International year. And I think maybe I see Jennifer in the background. Jennifer, you'll be making your way up along the side or however you want to. Anyways, fine. Our next presenter has an incredible story, and some of you may feel like that you know her if you have gone onto the Pilot International website and viewed the video that was provided for us to post on the website. Jennifer Johnson began her career as a journalist in Hastings, Nebraska, and moved to Rochester in 2002 for a reporting job at WHEC TV. After several years there, she moved to WHAM TV. In August 2019, she announced that she was leaving her career as a news anchor and was, and I quote, choosing to use what life has taught me and go in a new direction. Jennifer joined the Golisano Children's Hospital team in 2019 as the hospital's new director of family and community outreach. Raised in Boston, Jennifer graduated from Newhouse School of Public Communication in Syracuse, New York. Jennifer is married to Vinny Esposito, a former Monroe County legislator and the current Finger Lake Regional Director of Empire State Development. The couple lives in, and I'm not from this area, and I know how towns in Mississippi are mispronounced, so give me some slack. Irondequoit. Yeah. Okay. With their 2 of 3 children. Their daughter Grace was born with a congenital birth defect in 2011 and died 16 months after her complications from surgery. She was known to many as Amazing Grace. We look forward to Jennifer telling her story of Amazing Grace. Let's give her a warm pilot welcome.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Hello. Hello. Look, you get the extra points for the bow tie and that good smile you just gave me. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Well, I hope you've heard this a million times. Welcome to Rochester. We are thrilled that you are here. Funny thing, when I was a journalist, I was covering Hurricane Katrina and traveling with the New York National Guard, and we were dropping into towns in Mississippi. And with the southern drawl, I remember I asked someone, well, where are we? Because when you drop out of the sky, there's no welcome sign, right? And the man who had just gone through Hurricane Katrina had a really rough time, and he said, huh. And I said, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Because I needed this fact. I was a journalist. I needed to know where I was. And again, he said, huh. Okay. We worked on it. Finally, it was past Christiane. So I will not ding you at all for not saying Irondequoit correctly. So I just taught the tail end of the meeting. You guys just need to shake it out just a second, right? That looked like some serious business. I was thinking about, all of us, I think, these days have done all of the Zoom calls, right, with the PowerPoint and the objectives. This is what you're going to learn and the conclusion. And I thought about putting that together, and I said, no one wants to see that. If I don't have to give it to you, I'm not going to. The ask, which again, thank you so much for the invitation to be here, was just to share a story. My husband and I are both a part of service organizations, so selfishly I also accepted because I just love being around the vibe of you all, the vibe of people who realize someone's got to step up for this community, right? Someone's got to step up for the people who need support. And reading a little bit about your organization, I know that's you all, so I'm just going to take this vibe with me when we go because it fuels me each day. You guys too, right? Just coming together, finally being back together again. I imagine it's been a while. Just sort of feed that soul, feed that spirit, right? That we've probably been missing. You know, like we know we have it, but we don't always are around people in our home communities every day that share that mentality. So coming together, it's like, yes, my people, we can feed off each other once again and go forth and be rejuvenated, right? Well, I appreciate what you do, and I appreciate your emphasis on caregivers as well. One of the reasons I didn't put together some big PowerPoint presentation is I'm not an expert on caregiving. I've had my own lived experience, and I've learned a lot from it, and I've tried to advocate for change from it. And in my current job, a part of my job is to grow this army of other caregivers and parents at Golisano Children's Hospital that come from all different parts of our community, speak all different languages, practice all different religions, have all different choices, and of course have diversity of diagnosis with their child and diversity of outcomes as well. And then bring those voices into the conversation and into the boardrooms and into the decision-making process at our hospital, which to me is a dream come true. So again, I'm not an expert on caregiving, but I get to hear about how it's hard. If you haven't been one, it is 100% rewarding, but it can have a lot of challenges. And I had no idea. I had no idea some of the challenges that caregivers face when it comes to caring for a medically fragile or injured child, for example. You know, we're used to people at the end of life needing care and support. You know, we have nursing homes and we have support, and if you've ever had to care for someone who's aging, you know, even that can be frustrating even when there's an infrastructure. But science and medicine has gotten so good that so many of these kids now that would not have survived before are surviving. But the infrastructure to help care for them and their families, who are oftentimes the main caregivers, have not caught up. So it leaves these families, kind of in a bind. And I think if you were to ask any caregiver, whether they're caring for a child or, again, a parent, a spouse, a sibling, a neighbor, a friend, they could probably think of, off the bat, 5, 10 things that could be made better because they have this insight. But so often they're so busy taking care of that person that they don't have time to advocate for change or be at that boardroom, right? That's the job that I get to do now, because I lived that. I remember thinking, if I only had the time to advocate for this change, because I've had this lived experience. And after my daughter died, I realized I had the gift of being her mom, the gift of that insight. And even though I still had another child I was caring for, I had a lot more time on my hands and could go advocate for change. So that's a part of the job that I do now. And I'm extremely grateful for that. Extremely grateful to all of you as well. That again, not only have you come to Rochester, but you've stopped for a moment and thought not only about caregivers, but the Golisano Children's Hospital community. I mean, this is not breaking news. The past 2 years have not been easy, right? Especially for hospitals. And our Golisano Children's Hospital is attached to an adult hospital. And, we have weathered a lot of challenges over the past 2+ years. So I know you all are doing a service project in a little bit, and I wanted to make sure that I took a time to just say thank you for acknowledging our caregivers, our medical teams, our patients, our families at Golisano Children's Hospital. We know healthcare workers need to be supported right now, and you guys are doing that. Thank you on their behalf. A lot of our families, they are facing such big battles that it's very easy for them to feel alone. And these days, very much alone, physically in a hospital room, because our visitation policy, because of COVID, is still very limited. So when someone comes along like you all and says, listen, I don't know you, I don't know your name, I don't know your diagnosis. I don't know your child. But I am thinking of you. And I'm acknowledging what you're going through. And while, we're giving something, you're really giving this hope, this hug, if you will. And having been a parent who's been there, I just want to thank you all so much for that really kind gesture. So again, I thought I would talk a little bit about the reality of being a caregiver for a medically fragile child. And actually, when I think about my relationship with caregiving, it goes back to when I was 16, and I was sick for a number of years. And my mom was my caregiver and went to bat for me and found the doctors that I needed to see, because it was kind of a mystery illness. And sort of became less of a mystery when a woman who wrote for the Boston Globe wrote an article about this illness. And actually, it inspired me to want to become a journalist, because I saw the power of giving people the right information and they can make educated decisions about how they want to support you or how they can help you. And there's a quote, I was quoted in the article, something that I still go back to, and I'm pretty impressed that I said it at 16, is you can't ask people to always understand, but you can ask people to be understanding, right? I think sometimes these days, like, we have to prove to people that we might need help before we give it. Why is that, right? They need to understand all the nitty-gritty before maybe they'll help us. No, you don't. No, you don't. Sometimes that's private information. Sometimes it's just so much that they're trying to process. So when someone says, no strings attached, I don't need to know anything, I just want to help you, and that's the vibe I get from this group, that's needed. So thank you all. So again, I was inspired to become a journalist, and I was very happy in my career. And I, again, thought I would stay in Rochester for 2 years, and here I am, almost 20 years later. It all happened because I met a guy. I met a guy, I was all ready to move away, and I met a guy, and we're celebrating our 14th wedding anniversary next Tuesday. And thank you. Thank you very much, I appreciate that. And we've had 3 children. And again, we got married, and we wanted to start a family right away, and it took a little bit longer than I expected to conceive our first. So I was quite surprised when she was 8 months old that I was pregnant again. Didn't work that way the first time. Whoa, okay. So life was busy. We had a young child. I was working the morning news at that point, which means I got up at about 2 o'clock in the morning to get ready and do a live 4-hour morning broadcast, and then stay, and I would do the noon news and get out of work about 12:45 or 1 and pick up our young daughter. And my husband was working his 9 to 5, and I say that because does anyone work 9 to 5 anymore? No, they don't. And on top of that, he was running for office at the time, so usually when he was done with his job, he would then go campaign. So it was often up to me to, play with my daughter, feed her, bathe her, get us all to bed, and get up the next day and do it all again, which was tiring. And then, of course, being pregnant on top of it, that takes a toll. So already kind of tired. And I went to that halfway point appointment for this pregnancy. And that's when they said, I'm sorry, Jennifer, there's something very, very wrong. And that's when I first heard the term congenital diaphragmatic hernia. And I won't explain the science behind it or the medicine behind it. But the bottom line was that 50% of these babies who have this condition don't survive. And of the 50% who do, they're looking at 5 or 6 months or more in the hospital and a lot of surgeries. So our life changed a lot. We were trying to, while very public people, absorb very private news, and at the same time figure out what was the best track for us. Again, I'm not from Rochester. I do love it, but I fell into, I call it the Rochester trap. It's a lovely mid-sized city, but a lot of people who are from here think there's something bigger and better in the big cities, right? So there's got to be something better out there. So I began to shop around, if you will. And we went to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, that is considered by many the #1 NICU in the world. And what I mean by NICU is the ICU for, they call babies neonates, because, you know, nothing can be easy in medicine, right? Let's not call them babies, let's call them neonates. So it's the NICU. And so we were touring there, and they said, we have the sickest babies from around the world, and the babies that have your baby's condition are the sickest babies that we treat. Oh, okay. And by the way, her case is severe, and you should really come here for your care. Which was a terrible feeling because we both had jobs, we needed to work, we had to pay the bills. We had this other child to think about. Would our other daughter come to me and live in the Ronald McDonald house, or would she stay home and I would come back on weekends and see her? And it was a lot to think about. And so I said, tell me every reason why we need to come to Philadelphia for our care. And they got this long list. And I admit to not having faith that I would bring this list back to Rochester and that they would tell me that everything we needed was on that list. But that's what happened. And so to go through this challenging time, but to be able to do so in my hometown, meant the world to me. And I laugh because the doctor who was in charge of the NICU at the time, he's now a colleague, and he'll sometimes say to me, you asked more questions than any other parent I have ever worked with. But I say that because, you know, when you think about what it takes to be a caregiver and figuring out what the paths are, right? So I'm a planner. And I had thought, okay, how would I manage 5-6 months in the hospital? What would that look like? And even though I held out hope, I couldn't but help to acknowledge the statistics that said statistically, this isn't good. And so I began to put some of the pieces of the puzzle together for if we needed to hold a funeral shortly after our daughter was born. So I'm organizing all of that. By the way, PSA, public service announcement, I'm going through all of this, and people are still writing into the news. People don't know, but people are writing in being like, I don't like the clothes Jennifer's wearing on the news. Don't be that person, okay? Don't be that person. You know that expression, everyone's fighting a battle you don't know about? That includes your local news people, okay? They're doing the best they can. Don't be that person that emails in and says, I don't like her dress or his tie, okay? So these were my thoughts going into her birth in September of 2011. And no one thought she would survive the first few hours. And she did. And then she needed a major surgery because she was not in a good way. And actually, I remember before we were talking about surgery, my dad was able to come up. He's a doctor, and he was able to see the x-ray of our daughter's chest because the plumbing inside her body was not right. Basically, she had 20% of one lung, and her heart was pushed out of place. And my dad looked at the x-ray and asked the doctor, how is she alive? The doctor was like, I don't know. So no one thought she would survive the surgery. She survived the surgery. And we were going to bed that night. I'd had a C-section, so I was trying to recover myself. And there was a knock on the door, and it was this main doctor again, her main neonatologist, who said, you need to come to the NICU. She's not doing well. And so we got there, and it was what I thought was the worst thing I would ever see. The one little lung that she had collapsed, and it was everybody doing everything to work on her. And they said, this is not looking good. We can't keep up at this pace. You know, you either need to tell us to stop, or there's an intervention called ECMO, which is extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, which is a heart-lung bypass machine. And we can't guarantee it'll work, and even if it does keep her alive, it might cause brain damage and other complications. But we said, you know what, this girl has proved that she is a fighter, so let's go for it. We had about 10 seconds to decide. And they were able to get her on. I tell you, this team at Golisano Children's Hospital, they just kept surpassing all of our wildest expectations. But she had some other close calls while she was on ECMO, and I remember when she came off, I remember thinking, that is a chapter that I am going to put away, very far away, and I am never going to visit that ECMO chapter ever again, because that was awful. My daughter was about 10 days old, and she'd already died about 6 times. You know, when we talk about caregivers, we focus so much on the patient and their physical health. I wish we would often talk about the emotional toll that caregiving takes. PTSD in, I'm sure the NICU I know for sure, the PICU I know for sure, and I'm sure the adult ICU too is for real. We don't talk about it nearly as much as we should. So I'm still thinking 5-6 months in the hospital. Well, Grace, she just had this way of saying, oh, that's what you think's gonna happen? Okay. I'm gonna show you something different. So at about 2.5 months, she did some things that the doctors thought were gonna take much longer, and they said, okay, she's ready to come home. Which, the word discharge was one that I saw other people come and go in this time, you know? Like, oh, look, they were here, now they're gone, and they're here, now they're gone. Will we ever get to go home? And so when they actually said it, it was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible, this is our moment. But it was really chapter 2 of my caregiving, if you will. Because that's when you realize, wait a minute, we are bringing someone home from the ICU. All of these people who've studied medicine and know what they're doing, they're not coming with me. And all those machines that beep and everything, they're coming and I have to figure them out. And all the medicine that comes up magically from the pharmacy in the basement, all measured out and everything, suddenly I'm gonna be in charge of that. So yeah, we learned the oxygen, we learned the feeding tube, we learned the oximeter, we learned all these different medications, and as we're bringing her home, we're hoping that the oxygen company is dropping off her oxygen. We're hoping the medical supply company is dropping those things off. And you know, then there's all the specialists that we have to go back to the hospital to visit, and her pediatrician, whoo, I think I taught him a thing or two. In trying to get him up to speed on everything that was going on. And there was the speech therapist and the occupational therapist and the physical therapist. And then there was the nurses that we had at home, because when I did go back to work, Grace wasn't a kid that you could just bring to your local daycare. So suddenly I had this team of 30 people. I had basically inherited a small company. And electronic medical records, they're catching up to speed now, but none of them talked. They couldn't communicate electronically. So that was up to me and my husband as the caregivers to communicate all of this, all the little changes, because she was a kid that there wasn't much room for error. We also had to interpret a lot of this medical stuff. It was a really stressful time. You know, they sometimes talk about, like, you know, cut loose a little bit, you know, decide to go get ice cream after dinner, you know, to have a dance party. Unfortunately, we just didn't really have time for a lot of that stuff because the caregiving was constant. Now, it was worth it because I had that every second reminder that there's my daughter's face, right? It was all worth it. I do remember one time having a major breakdown because I'm trying to manage all of this. And the oxygen company never delivered the oxygen on time, but just oxygen. No biggie. Yeah, it's a big deal. And the medical supply company so oftentimes got the wrong supplies, and so just when you think, you know, you've set everyone right, then another mistake is made and you're just constantly, it's like running in sand. And a lot of people focus on the pageantry of television news, but we're journalists. We're after the story. So, the doing of the hair and the makeup and all that stuff, you got to do it on your own time. But I got out of work at 12:30 and I only had a nurse until 2, and it just wasn't enough time to get that hair appointment in, because guys in the room might not understand, but my hair takes much longer than 10 minutes, okay? And I got the okay once from my boss to leave early, but he must not have told my supervisor, and I just got yelled at. I got reamed. And I just had this. That was like the straw that broke the camel's back, right? Like, I am just trying so hard to do all of this, and it's obviously not working. So I thought, if people only knew what life was like for caregivers. Grace was doing well. I begun to think about who might watch her, where she might go after we didn't have nurses anymore. But a problem popped up, and she needed to have another surgery. And she'd had surgery before, and some of the tests of her body that might have a hard time during surgery, she passed those with flying colors, but this time she didn't. It was February of 2013, and she was in the operating room, and she had a really, really tough time. And that's when they said, Jennifer, we might have to put her back on that ECMO. And if you think about like your worst memory and how you never want to see it again, someone just like found it in my closet and took it out and put it right in front and said, here it is again. But they didn't need it. They were able to stabilize her, and we got her up to the PICU, and she had another episode that I hadn't seen before, but this time I got to see it. And out of all of the episodes, I think that was the scariest. And I needed to calm down. Because I was her caretaker, right? So I had to be well. I needed to get some sleep because I had to advocate for her. And so we're lucky in Rochester to have a Ronald McDonald House within our hospital. So my husband was able to just go up one floor and go to sleep. He had no problem falling asleep. I stayed in her room and tried to lay in that bed there, and I could not calm down. I could not calm down. And suddenly out of nowhere, I just got this calm. I think because I began to think, like, all right, I'm either going to picture summertime and us hanging out, or maybe after seeing all of this, maybe we've given it our all. That was the first time I had that thought. And as painful as it sounds, I was actually okay with it. And I think that peace came from Grace, because I had that 15 minutes of calm and peace. And then all the alarms started again, and the bells and the whistles. And my husband wasn't waking up, so I had to run upstairs and get him. And by the time we got back, it was all hands on deck. And they tried and tried and tried. And brought up that word ECMO again. But we knew at that point that the girl that we loved was gone. I'll say this. We're at a time where, politics is so divisive, and it is the field that my husband works in. But when we made that decision not to continue care, I stood there in shock. He went around the room and shook everyone's hand and said, thank you. That's the man I'm married to. And I want to say this too. I realize that I lead a very blessed life. I have a partner by my side who is wonderful. We have a home that is safe. We have a roof over our head. It has heat. We have food. My family's not from here, but his is. We have a support network, and still this was so hard. And it would keep me up at night wondering, what do families who aren't as lucky and blessed as us, you take away one of those supports, much less all of those supports, how are these families supposed to do this? And what does it mean for the health of that child? And so slowly I kind of spun this thinking into a job that I'm doing now. Before I started doing that job, I think about, how can we as a group care for caregivers? I want you to go home and either where you work or maybe where you retired from or something, look at the bereavement policy. A lot of places allow for 2 or 3 days. That's not enough. Maybe if it's Uncle Harold or Aunt Sally or someone who you might not really know, but if you lose a spouse, a child, it's not enough. Again, we're in New York, and in 2018, we passed something called paid family leave, which acknowledges the role of caregivers. Where you live, you might have that as well. It's beginning to pick up steam across the country. But it acknowledges the roles of caregivers. It says sometimes people in our life need help. They need caregiving. And so in New York, it started, you could get 8 weeks, and then it phased into 10 weeks, and then up to 12 weeks, which was a beautiful first step. At the time, our local senator was my former co-anchor, but a dear friend who had walked several paths with me, in part because he had lost his son. And our local assemblyman, who's now a member of Congress, had very recently lost his daughter. And so I got them together and I said, guys, can we do something about this? Can we amend paid family leave to include time for bereavement? The reality is that, caregivers, for a lot of these caregivers, the person that they're caring for is going to die. Not all of them, obviously, but some of them will. And so we are acknowledging the hard work and passion and compassion that they are pouring into these people. But then even that person dies, we're like, all right, well, get back to work. You must be okay. We're not okay. We're not okay. So this amendment got through the New York State Senate and it got through the New York State Assembly. But then the business groups got a hold of it and they didn't like it. And the governor ended up vetoing it. And I think it was the New York Post wrote an op-ed. And the title of the op-ed was something like, Governor Wise in his use of pen to veto the bereavement bill. And when you go on like a news website, you see various titles of different articles sort of all stacked up. Well, that was one title. And the title of the next article right below it was, Let's make 2019 the year of mental health. Right? We need to have a real conversation in our country. And maybe COVID has moved that forward. But what grief really looks like. And because when you're told, by your medical doctor, by your therapist, make sure you're jogging, make sure you're doing yoga, make sure you're journaling, make sure you're getting into your appointments and seeing me. I'm a working mom. I don't have time for that, right? And our policies don't support any of that happening. So just, think about it when you go home and see what the policy is. Because I think the cold reality for a lot of caregivers, and maybe Chapter 3, that if the person they're caring for passes away, it's not a fun reality. I was thinking about other ways that, we could support caregivers. I often try to not pepper someone with 10,000 questions. I think about my days in the hospital. Some days were very slow. Some days were action-packed. Some days, were very unpredictable. And, people would pepper me with 10,000 questions of what's the latest and how does this test work and what does that level mean and And I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to be alone with my thoughts. Now that's me. I'm the girlfriend though who, we might not talk for a few weeks and we can still pick up where we left off. I know other people are the kind of girlfriend who we must text every day or something's wrong, right? So I say this acknowledging the kind of person that I am. I don't want to be peppered with 10,000 questions. And that includes, making food for someone. Oh, can I make you something? What do you want me to make? And how about this? And how about this? And how about that? And how about this? And how about this? And how about that? And it's a lovely gesture, but if I spend all my day texting with you because you want to make me something and I have to make all these decisions, then I'm not being able to be the caregiver that I need to be. So I would say to someone, hey, can I make it a gluten-free lasagna and drop it off for you on Thursday? And drop it off at your front door in a container that if no one gets home for the next several hours, that lasagna is still going to be okay, right? And if you follow that up with 10,000 more texts about, can I pick up my Tupperware dish? No, you cannot pick up your Tupperware dish. Do me a favor and buy something. I love the environment, okay? I like it when we can reuse our Tupperware, but get something from that grocery store that, you're never going to get back, and that's going to be okay, all right? And you're going to save that caregiver a lot of extra texts. And on behalf of them, thank you. And ask people how they want to communicate if they're a caregiver. For me, especially after my daughter died, I didn't like the open-ended, how are you doing questions. That's me. I didn't. Because I was working through these big emotions, and a lot of days I just wanted to feel. And a lot of those feelings I couldn't put into words. So the how are you feeling forced me to sit there and, try to come up with words to convey this really big, really kind of out-of-body, awful experience. So again, if you're the kind of girlfriend who texts every day, go for it. But me, I hated that question. And it's such a nice thing. How are you doing, right? You would never think that was to make someone go, oh, God, I don't want to answer this text. But for me personally, it did. Ask if they want space. Some people, again, want a bestie right by their side. I kind of liked my privacy. I kind of liked my own time to just breathe. And it didn't mean that I didn't like you. I liked you a lot, but sometimes I just needed my time. So rushing by my side isn't necessarily what I wanted, but maybe the person the caregiver that you're caring for, ask them. Ask them, how much space do you want? Also, I'm not someone who is good at accepting help. I don't know if you've picked up on that at this point. But the open-ended offers of, let me know if there's anything I can do. Then that puts it on that person to brainstorm something that you can do for them, which is, again, a lovely offer. But I almost feel like specific asks can be a little bit better. Like, can I mow your lawn on Friday? Yeah, that's a quick, yeah, I can. But if it's, can I do something for you? I'd have to think about what I needed done. And, Bob's texting me, and does Bob have a lawn mower? And is Bob free on Friday? I don't know. And then again, it leads to all these texts. Do you have anything to take to the post office that I can do that errand for you? Sometimes it's those little errands that if you're at that breaking point, trying to get those errands done, and if someone looks at you sideways while you're trying to do those errands, oh, I'm just going to be a puddle on the floor. So if that means you can take that off my list, please do. I remember after Grace died, I got a lot of the, if there's anything I can do questions. Again, all lovely things. But this was 9 years ago now, and I still remember when my girlfriend said, my sister owns a salon. Do you need anything from the salon? And yeah, I was running out of my highlight-friendly shampoo. And I said, can you get me that shampoo? And it was like the easiest thing. It was one text. I actually, in preparation for today, I shot her a text and I said, remember when you bought me shampoo 9 years ago? That still stuck with me because it just was exactly what I needed. It wasn't an open-ended question. It was exactly what I needed. Every year for our daughter Grace, her birthday, we go to the cemetery and have a picnic and play red light, green light. I don't know why. I don't know where we came up with that. But I don't know if there's a right thing that you do to celebrate your child who's passed away. So that's what we do. And every year, one of our amazing nurses goes to the store and gets helium balloons and leaves them on our front door so that we can take those to the cemetery. Because the act of going to the grocery store or the party store yourself to get balloons for a party in a cemetery for your daughter who's passed away, that's not a fun errand. It's not a fun errand. So it's like she thought about what I needed. And I'm so grateful that every year that she does that. So I would just say too, as we think about the birthdays, remember those birthdays. You know, if you're caring for a caregiver who's someone who's passed, write down the person who's passed, their birthday, maybe the day they died, maybe some milestones. You know, everyone's there immediately after, but slowly that fades away, and it seems like the world's still spinning, where for you, it seems like the world is standing still. So, you know, when you get a note 2 months out, 4 months out, 6 months out, you know, maybe it's a coworker who's gone through a time, and maybe a coworker has lost someone. You know, a sign in the office. You know, you're going to write a card at 2 months, you're going to write a card 4 months, you're going to write a card at 6 months, and just acknowledging that they're still going through this, right? And it doesn't even have to be the exact day. For me, our daughter died in February. I hate the whole month of February. I'm sorry anyone who loves it. I hate it. February can be off the calendar and I would be fine with it. Can I veto February? But I sort of tell everyone as February rolls around, listen, I'm gonna be in a bad mood. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna say sorry in advance. I might not return your calls. I might not return your text. I might not wanna go out. I might snap at you, and I'm sorry in advance. But, you know, we have this big ugly spot in February, and so acknowledging the pain that I think people are going through can go through a long way. So I don't want to end on a sad note, and I feel like I've come here and complained, but again, being a caregiver is hard. And again, I am so grateful that now I get to take the experiences of not just my own, but the experiences of other families that I work with, because again, we all have different experiences, right? We all have different outlooks, and incorporate those into the decisions and the policies that are made at Golisano Children's Hospital. So hopefully I've said something that might resonate with some of you as you go back to your own communities and think about supporting a caregiver. And I just have to say one more time, from everyone, all of the caregivers, the families, the patients, the care teams at our hospital, thank you for coming here today and thinking about them, acknowledging them, and doing your community service in their honor. Thank you so much for your time. Safe travels home, and hopefully we'll see you again at some point. Thank you. Oh, thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Working super.
We match.
Thank you, Jennifer. You have certainly touched our lives through your journey as a caregiver. And very important to us is you have affirmed why supporting those who care for others is one of our focus areas. So that means a lot to know that we're on the right direction.
You sure are. Keep up that great work.
On behalf of Pilot International, here's just a little something for you that you can perhaps use later.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
And also, we would like to present you with an honorary membership to Pilot International, presented this day, June the 30th, 2022.
I knew you were my people. Thank you. Thank you.
And Jennifer did not want any payment for coming and speaking with us today. But even before she was an employee of Golisano Children's Hospital, she and her husband were engaged in fundraising for the hospital. And in fact, if I remember correctly, there is a garden in Grace's memory, Amazing Grace. And so here is a check
for you, for the hospital. She has a team, a fundraising team, and I think you had an event in June. And so you can apply that toward your fundraising efforts for your team, or however you choose to use it for the hospital.
Thank you. Can I hug? I'm a hugger.
Absolutely. I am too.
Thank you.
You want to stay for the service project, right?
I can stay for a little bit.
Sure, okay, and the TV station's here too. So,
okay.
Okay, perfect, okay. Okay, following the announcement of our election results, we will be going to the Grand Lilac Ballroom, where we will assemble the 150 patient gift bags, 100 family caregiver pick-me-ups, and 1,500 pick-me-ups for the frontline caregivers for the hospital. And Jennifer's going to be able to stay with us for just a little bit, and also there's a local TV station that is here that will give some coverage to Pilot International. Like I say, we want to leave our footprint on Rochester, and we can't think of a better way to do it than this. At this time, I'm going to ask our election chair, Cindy Weaver, to come and give us the report of the election committee.
Madam President and Sister Governor, here's the election report. Number of ballots cast, 212. Number of votes needed to elect, 107. Number of illegal ballots, 1. Somebody voted for 5 directors. For Vice President, Nicola Dawkins, 131. Lisa Patterson, 80. Director, Sherry Bath, 113. Sheila Evans, 61. Karen Ferguson Bain, 168. Susan Harbin, 90. Lisa Palmquist, 128. Debbie Ray, 70. Beverly Sheen, 172. Signed by myself and Peggy Benton as chair and vice chair, and signed by all committee members.
Thank you, Cindy. The election report is properly signed by the members of the committee. The chair will repeat the report in its entirety. Number of ballots cast, 212. Number of votes needed to elect, 107. Number of illegal ballots, 1. Vice President Nicola Dawkins, 131. Lisa Patterson, 80. Director Sherry Bath, 113. Sheila Evans, 61. Karen Ferguson Bain, 168. Susan Harbin, 90. Lisa Palmquist, 128. Debbie Ray, 70. Beverly Sheen, 172. You have elected Nicola Dawkins as Pilot International Vice President. Congratulations. You have elected Sherry Bath, Karen Ferguson Bain, Lisa Palmquist, and Beverly Sheen as directors. It is my pleasure now to present the 2022-2023 Pilot International officers. Rona, would you please stand and lead your team to my left, please? President, Rona Espinoza. Vice President, Holly Baker. Vice President-elect Holly Baker, sorry about that. President-elect Nicola Dawkins.
Did I get it wrong again? Okay, we're going to do this right. Okay, President Rona Espinoza, President-elect Holly Baker, Vice President Nicola Dawkins, Secretary Susan Call, Treasurer Joseph Cunningham, Directors Sherry Bath, Director Karen Ferguson Bain, Director Lisa Palmquist, Director Beverly Sheen. You may congratulate them and take photographs at this time.
This is the motion. You don't need to, it's just simply
But I'm not talking about even the first play y'all got. First, the motion, they moved to. No, not the amendments. There's three. We had one person get up and went, moved to, and then somebody else came up and amended. Right, and that was exactly the way they read it. Okay.
All they did was say
If you'll leave it,
it's presented.
Thank you.
This is the one that you probably.
Yeah, well, I'll need both of them, won't I?
The other one was just to strike two from the amendment motion. That's all that was. If you're not sure, we should get typed up soon too.
I'll do that anyway. Huh? Oh. You know what this means? I get to have no mind district convention.
Okay, let's congratulate them again. If you notice, we're right on schedule and a little bit ahead of schedule, and we're not going to do anything to change that. Okay, at this time, I would like to dismiss the Century governors, the 21, 22 governors, and those individuals who you recruited to help with the service project. And then if the others will remain in the room until they exit, and then I'll give you the directions for the service project. The Century governors and those they recruited to assist with the service project. If you have attended other conventions where we did a hands-on service project, ones that come to mind are when we did Clean the World and we assembled toiletry packs, or we assembled meals or school supplies.
it can be a lot of people in a relatively small space trying to do the same thing at the same time. So we've tried to organize this where it will go very smoothly and very quickly. The location of the service project is in the Grand Lilac Ballroom, which is downstairs. It is one half of the large ballroom, the anchor's on the other half, and it's separated by a black curtain. When you walk into the room, you're going to see 3 rows of tables. There's three 8-foot tables placed end to end to form a row. And there's going to be 3 rows of those tables. The individuals that are going ahead are getting ready to dispense the supply of the gift items for the bags. We have 1,500 staff bags to assemble. We're going to do those first. So there's going to be 3 rows, and there's going to be the same thing on each of the 3 rows. So your first stop is going to be at the end of the table when you enter the room. You're going to pick up a cellophane bag, and then you're going to walk down that row, and you're going to walk down on the right side of the table. There's going to be someone on the left side of the table, and they're going to be putting items in your bag. It's kind of like trick or treat on June 30th. So you just walk and get something put in your bag. When you get to the end of the bag, we're going to tie that bag up. Someone will take that bag and put it in a box to be delivered to the hospital. And we need for you to just make a circle and come back around and get that line and do it again. So the biggest part is getting into the room to start the line. But you know how sometimes especially at airports, when they direct you as to which security line to get in, so go to the shortest line. And I think at Disney World they say the left is always the shortest. It probably won't be here, but so just get in one of those 3-way lines and circle through and hold your bag out. And if you want to say trick or treat, that's fine. Now, as soon as we assemble those 1,500 bags, it will take less than a minute to switch out to the, I think we're going to do the children's bags next. We only have 100 of those, but the same process. So just keep, just circle around. Okay, is there any question about it? Okay, I will say that we had, my last count, that we had $14,160 given in sponsorships for the Children's Project. And I don't know about you, but Jennifer really and truly touched me with talking about how much difference one of these pick-me-ups is going to mean when a hospital caregiver receives it, or a family caregiver, or a child in the hospital. So with that being said, why don't we start and let's see, I'm going to dismiss the EC, the dais at this time, to go and join. And then, oh yes, Carol, I'm sorry. Is Carol still here? Yeah. Thank you, Laura. I forgot about that.
That's what you're paying me for. Actually, I have several announcements. Regarding the fundraiser tonight at the Eastman Museum, the buses will depart at 6:15 from the Hyatt Main Street entrance at Starbucks. The ticket holders for the Niagara trip Friday, the bus departs at 9 a.m. For Castle Largo Friday evening, the bus departs at 6 p.m. All of these departures are from the same place, at Starbucks. For Frontier Field, I've had several questions about this. The pickup is at the Hyatt for Frontier Field at 6:15. That's on Friday night also. Faith Stamps has an extra ticket for the winery. Jeannie Johnson from the Pilot Club of West Point, Mississippi District is looking for 3 ball game tickets. And Winnie Brewer would like the Pips to please meet immediately following this business section at this end of the stage, and that will alleviate the need for you to be at the 7 o'clock practice, at 7 a.m. practice. So that's for the Pips.
Because we wouldn't be there anyway.
Okay. Thank you, Carol. Now, as a reminder, we will not come back together as a large group until Saturday. The first event is Saturday morning at 8 o'clock in this room for the memorial service. The doors will be closed promptly at 8 and will not reopen until the conclusion of the memorial service, approximately 8:30. Then the rest of the day will be spent in, we'll have the breakfast, a speaker, and the day will be spent in here, and then close out with the installation banquet that evening. So again, just be patient as we get the process started on the service project. And if nothing else, plan your workshops for tomorrow, because there are many excellent choices. And however you choose to spend your evening this evening, please enjoy that. And we have another announcement. The Heartland District found an earring in Highland EF. Linda Bayer has it if it's yours. She found it whether it's yours or not, but if you've lost one and want to claim it, she has it. Okay, anything else? Okay, let's start, and let's just orderly leave the room, starting to my right. Those, the back tables, anyone that's ready to leave from there now.